Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 2, Episode 11. Another fantastic episode. I don't know how many more times I can keep saying that SLC is really bringing it in this second half of the season.
I love it. I love it.
And I also just want to quickly say that it's becoming more and more apparent that Mary is not the right fit for this group. Mary and these women have nothing in common, and it seems to be pulling teeth to get Mary to join in on these group activities and group events. So I think for season 3, I just don't know if Mary should continue being on the show. Maybe she might do better as a friend of, but it's like, we already know that Mary was not hanging out with Nan, one of these ladies, before the camera started. So that's just my opinion on that. I would not be upset if they don't ask Mary to come back for season 3 because she's really not bringing a whole lot. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into this recap because we don't have a minute to spare. We start off this episode right where we left off last week. Jenny's asking Lisa if Lisa believes that Jen was meeting up with another guy. Lisa proceeds to say that she has no idea who she met up with that night, and she's just as confused as everybody else. But you can tell that they don't quite believe Lisa. Everybody feels at that table that Lisa knows a lot more than she's letting on. Heather's trying to put the pieces together, and she goes on to say that they are at ground zero. So now Lisa breaks out into an award-winning performance, and she starts fake crying yet again. She goes on to say, I feel like I am being deceived right now, okay? Jen is not who we thought she was. So she's doing all of that, child. I said, Lisa, if you're going to attempt to cry, can you make it believable? Can you have some tears actually come out of your eye sockets, please? I mean, all these hysterics, but not one tear coming out of anybody's eye. Heather goes on to say, look, about that whole night, I just assumed that Jen didn't want me to know who was taking her home, but I never assumed that it was another man. Then she goes on to say, if Lisa knows something, then she should just tell us because, it's getting ridiculous. I feel the same way too, Heather, but we know how Lisa is. Lisa likes to hide information and sort of dangle it over people's heads like a little carrot, like she knows something that you don't. So now Lisa starts fake crying yet again, and she's like, she's not who I thought she was. She's not who I thought she was. Everything is a lie. Everything is a lie, and I just don't know how I feel. So she starts fake sobbing, and then Meredith comes around to comfort her. I said, child, the fact that anybody would buy that little whack performance is beyond me. But I said, okay, Meredith, go on and console your friend who actually threw you under the bus a few hours ago saying that you had something to do with Jen getting arrested. But I digress. So while they're talking, Mary is just listening intently. And did you guys notice when Mary was eating something, it looked like she was eating chips? And I guess she bit her tongue or either the food was hot, but she was like, ouch, and no one else caught it. I was like, Mary, what is going on? And I was like, I know I'm not the only one who caught that, but I couldn't stop cracking up because Mary was just in her own world while they were discussing Jen Shah and this arrest and all the other foolishness going on. Now Lisa chimes in and says, I feel betrayed. We all feel betrayed right now, okay? And I feel like Jen is living a double life. And when I met up with her at my kid's photo shoot and we discussed her former assistant, yeah, I set her off, but then we ended up hugging, so I thought that we were all good. But then when I got in my car, I got all these texts of her cursing me out, and my kids were in the car. So now Lisa wants to know if any of the other women have received some bizarre texts from Jen as well. They all say that they have, and then Lisa goes on to say that after the Vegas trip last season, and remember how Jen went off the rails on that trip, like she showed her entire ass. So anyhow, Lisa says that after that trip, Jen sent her this really disturbing text message, and the most disturbing part of the text message was Jen spelling because wrong. She spelled it like BCUZ. So Lisa was like, yeah, I just found that to be super disturbing. I was cracking up like, okay, so the fact that Jen was calling you a racist and calling you everything but a child of God, that was okay. But her spelling because wrong, that was the most disturbing part. You really can't make this up. Now Meredith interjects and she drops another piece of information that has everybody speechless. She lets everybody know that she hired a private investigator on Jen. So everybody's like, wait, what? Whitney says that she has never experienced anything like this in any friend group where somebody hired a private investigator on somebody else. Meredith explains her reasoning as to why she hired a PI, and she says that her son was receiving these crazy threats, and the PI told her that it was probably from Jen. I also saw Meredith on Watch What Happens Live after the episode went off, and she was saying that the PI had traced the phone number, and it was a phone number linked to some burner phone. So pretty much, she believes to this day that this had Jen written all over it. Look, it's not far-fetched for anybody to assume that that was Jen threatening Meredith's son, because Meredith, Jen, and Brooks were all going at it all last season. Jen was sitting up on Twitter and Instagram liking all these crazy posts about Brooks. Also, the fact that Jen has a lot of people on her staff, and the fact that she claims that she had a social media person running her Twitter and Instagram account is not out of the realm of possibility that somebody on her staff was sending some messages to Brooks from a burner phone on Jen's behalf. Just saying. If I were Meredith, I would think the same thing too. Meredith is super heated and she's like, look, show of hands, who here wants to move forward in a friendship with Jennifer Shaw? Nobody answers. Everybody is silent. Jenny chimes in and she says, I like Jen a lot when I first met her. I relate to her because we're both minorities and we both know what it's like to be misunderstood. And Jen Shaw is not misunderstood. Jen Shaw doesn't know how to act. That's why these women have a hard time with her, because she's always coming out her neck saying and doing something crazy. The way she's always yelling at people, the way she talks to people, the way she treats people, always cursing at somebody. That's not being misunderstood. That's called being an asshole and nobody wants to be around you because you just can't seem to get your act together. Jenny feels bad for Jen and tells the group, we can't just leave her to the sidelines because she's been arrested. Then we see Jenny's confessional and she says that she's feeling uncomfortable with this conversation and she feels like, does she have to watch her back? Like, are they going to turn on her next? Jenny, you don't need to worry about watching your back in this group because most likely you will not be asked back for season 3. So you don't need to worry about this group turning on you because you're going to be out the group real soon because you're not entertaining, you're not interesting, and none of the viewers are feeling you at all. So girl, don't worry about it. I promise you, Bravo is going to take care of that for you when they don't give you a contract for the next season. But I digress. Now here comes Heather being the sweet, supportive friend that she is. And she lets everybody know that despite all this craziness going on with Miss Jen, she's going to stick beside her. I said, okay, Heather. Heather goes on to say that the true meaning of friendship is when you're down and out. And when the world leaves, a good friend walks in to stick by your side. I said, Heather, that's all well and good, but remember that Jen has not been a good friend to you. The way she's treated you, the way she called you all sorts of names, the way she picked at your appearance, the way she was calling you racist. I mean, I probably would have been like, shout out to everybody, I have fun because I have self-esteem and common sense. I'm not about to sit anywhere and have somebody mistreat me. So I definitely would have been jumping overboard like, you know what, girl, you're on your own with this one, especially since we don't have the best past and you've insulted me many times before. But that's just me. Now Lisa chimes in and she says, I know I've been a good friend to Jen, but at what point is it being a good friend or just being stupid? Child, Meredith jumps back into the conversation and she is irate. She starts screaming and she's banging on the table talking about, can we talk about the lives that she has ruined with her actions? I said, oh my gosh, Meredith is on 20 and I am here for it. The way she said she's going to make up for all that disengaging last season, she is engaging at full throttle and we the people are here for every single minute of it. Then she says, at what point is enough enough? So now Heather's like, Meredith, I'm confused because I thought that you and Jen made up and that you guys were on an upward trajectory. So Meredith lets Heather know, girl, yes, we did make up. I did forgive Jen, but let's just get one thing straight. Me and her are not friends. We won't ever be friends. I want nothing to do with her. And everybody does not react or process things in the same way. Some people are super forgiving and some people are not. And that's another reason why you need to watch how you treat people. Jen does not have the best track record for the treatment of other folks in this group. And when you treat somebody poorly over and over again, you cannot be upset if they no longer want to be your friend anymore. Like, people need to realize that. Everybody's not going to sit there and take your nonsense. Some people like Heather, they can keep forgiving you. And it's like, other folks, it's like, no, girl, you had your chance. You blew it. I want nothing to do with you. Now Mary jumps into the conversation and she says, regarding Jen, I never saw the good in her, okay? I always knew that there was some scandal that followed her. I knew it. And I'm not surprised. And that's all I have to say about that. I said, now, Mary, you are the wrong person to talk about anybody having scandal surrounding them because, baby, your whole life is scandalous. Marrying your step-grandfather, your family's history, the members of your church coming forward, talking about their experiences. I mean, your whole life is just something out of a Lifetime movie. I said, girl, I would sit this one out talking about somebody else is full of scandal and you don't see the good in them because a lot of folks don't see the good in you. You don't have the best attitude. The way you treat people, the way you talk to people, it's kind of rude, sis. So again, I would have sat there and just ate my food. But I said, okay, Mary. Then Mary dares one of them to call Jen right now. Heather calls Jen, and of course, it goes straight to voicemail. I mean, we already knew that she would not be picking up the phone. So I don't even know why anybody would suggest that they call Jen. Like, what is she going to say? Oh, yeah, hey, girls, like, I'm here at the jail cell. Like, what is she going to say? That was kind of stupid. I wouldn't have called her because I already know that if she does pick up the phone, she's not going to answer any questions that I have. So that's just a waste of time for everybody. But I digress. Now Meredith interjects and she gives all the ladies a final warning. Giving Jen Shah the benefit of the doubt is finished. I said, come through, sis, with this fake mob wife like persona. I said I was here for Meredith and all of her dramatics as well. She lets them know that she does not want Jen around her family, or any of her businesses. And if they have an event or any sort of party, if they invite Jen, then they cannot invite her because she will not be in the same room as that woman. I said, okay, Meredith, let us know then. Now we move on to the next scene, and it's the next morning. All the ladies are in the kitchen and they're gonna cook some breakfast. Now, Meredith, baby, you are definitely the hostess with the mostest. The house is fabulous. But sis, your money is too long for you not to have had a chef up in there with some breakfast already made. I said, girl, why do they have to cook their own breakfast? Child, y'all really get on my nerves because it's like you guys just have too much money for some of this stuff that y'all pull. But let me just get on with the recap, okay? Heather's making mimosas and French toast. I think Whitney's going to be cooking some eggs. And then Mary walks into the kitchen and she tells Whitney that she wants Whitney to cook her up some eggs. So Whitney's nervous as hell because remember that her and Mary got into it. They're not really on good terms right now. And also the fact that Mary can be very intimidating. So Whitney's kind of shook. So, child, Whitney cooks the eggs, she gives the plate to Mary, and Mary puts the plate in the microwave because she says that she did not see Whitney wash her hands once, and she doesn't think that Whitney did a good job cooking the eggs. I mean, now, Mary, if you don't like Whitney, then why are you going to ask somebody that you don't like in the first place to cook you something to eat? I know I'm not asking an enemy to cook me anything. Because Lord knows what they could do to it. But again, I digress. And who puts eggs in the microwave? I kind of got grossed out. Like, ugh, that's kind of disgusting. Now we see Meredith and Lisa go outside to talk. And Meredith goes on to ask Lisa about Mary. Meredith wants to know the tea, okay? So Lisa starts saying that the church members all look at Mary as this like elusive figure and how they're in awe of her. Then she says that Cameron really likes Mary a lot and how at one point he and Mary had a strong friendship as well. So Meredith is looking at Lisa like, Lisa, what's the point you're trying to make? Like, girl, what are you saying? Like, what's the deal? Are the rumors about Mary true? Yes or no? Then Meredith says, all this stuff that's coming out about Mary, how come you never mentioned it to me? So Lisa says, look, Meredith, you and Mary have a great friendship. I wasn't going to say anything to rattle your opinion about her. Meredith says, look, you seem to be tight-lipped about stuff, so I'm going to go straight to the source and just ask Mary directly about all these rumors and what's going on. So now Lisa gets worried and she's like, what are you going to ask Mary? And I said, girl, why are you so worried? Because you know that you were up to no good inviting Cameron to that event in the first place because you knew that he was going to say something crazy on camera about Mary. And you're afraid that your little plan is once again going to backfire and blow up in your face. So Lisa ends the conversation by saying, Meredith, I keep all of your confidences, and I would like the same for Cameron. So now all the ladies split up into groups for the activities of the day. Meredith, Lisa, and Mary are going ice skating in town and then doing some shopping. And then Heather, Whitney, and Jenny are going dog sledding. Can I tell you, dog sledding is on my list of things to do because it looked like so much fun and the dogs are just so cute. So I was cracking up when Heather, Whitney, and Jenny arrived to dog sledding. And then Whitney says, I'm allergic to dogs and how she forgot to take her Zyrtec. So then I was screaming because one of the guides was like, oh, how old is Zyrtec? And she was like, no, that's the medicine that I take because I'm allergic to dogs. And then he was like, oh. I was screaming. Like, that was just so funny to me. So now we flip back over to Lisa, Mary, and Meredith in town. They're doing some shopping first. So they go to this jewelry store and Lisa tries on these pair of really pretty diamond earrings. So then Mary is sitting down and she's like, Lisa, you should have cleaned the earrings first because you can get an infection that way. So Lisa makes a joke like, oh my gosh, like Mary is like such a clean freak. I said, Mary, I am quite sure that the salespeople at this jewelry store clean the jewelry often. I'm sure that Lisa will be just fine. So they finish shopping, and now the three of them get on the ice skating rink. And when I tell you, not one of them could ice skate. I was really waiting for Lisa to, do something because she bought that cute ice skating outfit. I was like, girl, you did all this and can't even skate? Now we flip back over to Heather, Whitney, and Jenny. They finish dog sledding and they're on the bus to take them back to the house. They bring up Lisa Barlow and the dramatics that she was displaying when the news broke out about Jen being arrested. Heather says that it was damn near the Lisa Barlow show, her crying, the antics, her being on the phone with all 6 of her lawyers. It was a bit much. Heather goes on to say that Lisa likes to stir stuff up, and she does. Heather also adds that Lisa claims to know all this information, but doesn't want to divulge it. So Jenny's just listening, and she's not too pleased because she's really good friends with Lisa. So of course, hearing anybody say anything bad about your friend, that's always going to be a very sticky situation. So Jenny says in her confessional that Lisa is a great friend to her and how Heather and Whitney have cloudy judgment because they don't like Lisa. No, girl, they don't have cloudy judgment. They are right on the money about your friend. Now Heather, Whitney, and Jenny arrive back to the house, and they start talking about how Heather is originally from Colorado. Heather says that both of her sisters are still in Colorado and how she's been kind of estranged from them. They haven't had the best relationship. She brings up how I think one of the sisters married a non-Mormon like 20 years ago, and because of that, Heather did not talk to her. She felt superior to her because remember that Heather was like a super Mormon back in the day, and she could not be bothered with anybody who was not Mormon. So she says that because of her being so self-righteous all those years, they have not had the best relationship, pretty much non-existent. But now that Heather is no longer Mormon, she feels really bad about how they haven't been close and haven't talked. And she says that she has a lot of making up to do to her sister. She goes on to say that she's excited and nervous about seeing her sister for the first time in many years because, again, they haven't had a relationship for the most part because they've been estranged. It's just really sad that she's let a lot of time go by and now they're making up for lost time now. But I mean, I guess better late than never. But I think it's hilarious that Heather is just such a free spirit now. Like, she is all about having sex and having a good time and taking some shots. I'm like, okay, girl, like I see you. So it's just funny to imagine her back in the day, like as this really straight-laced Mormon girl who didn't do anything, and now she's the complete opposite now. We move on to a short scene with Jen Shah. She's at her lawyer's office and they're having a debrief about what just happened. Jen Shah says that what she's being accused of is the complete opposite of who she is, and how the only thing that she's guilty of is being too giving. I said, okay, girl. Jen is explaining the whole phone call situation in her confessional. She says that she got a call from Sharif's number, but when she picked up the phone, she said, this is not my husband's voice on the other line. She says the person on the other line told her to get her son Omar and bring him to Utah Hospital. Then we see Jen say to her lawyer that she didn't grow up with a lot, so this doesn't make any sense to her, like she just doesn't understand. So then we see her crying about how this is going to affect her husband and her kids, and she is just beyond upset. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't have a whole lot to say about this whole Jen Shah case. I just feel like it's a shame that this has happened. I feel sorry for her children, especially the youngest son, who I think is like 15, 16, because the fact that his mom might be missing a lot of important milestones in his young life, that is very sad. Again, you guys know how I feel about her marriage to Sharif. I definitely do not see Sharif sticking around. I don't. I think that this is about to be the nail in the coffin for her and Sharif. And I read a few days ago that her assistant steward has just pled guilty. So I don't know if Jen is going to follow suit and do the same, or just, I don't know. This is a very sad situation, and I feel very sorry for Jen's children. And that's all I have to say about that. So now we flip back over to all the ladies in Vail, and they're getting ready for dinner. It was so cute because the theme was like Swiss, and they were all dressed in like Swedish attire, and they all looked really good, by the way. So anyhow, we see Mary getting dressed in her room, and she's talking to herself about how much she hates group trips. Again, Mary, if you didn't want to go, then you should have stayed home, because nobody has time for miserable attitudes and you being a Debbie Downer the entire time. Like I keep saying, Mary is the odd person out in this group. Like, she does not gel with the other ladies. I mean, I personally don't feel like Mary could gel with anybody because she's just very weird. Like, there's no other way to say it. She's very socially awkward. It's evident that she does not enjoy being around people. All the ladies are taking shots from an ice sculpture, and then Mary joins them, and they're like, Mary, you want to take a shot? And she's like, no, I want some meat. Mary is hungry, tired, cold, and annoyed, and all she wants to do is get some food on a plate. Like, she is not thinking about taking some shots. So the ladies finally start eating, and let me tell you, that food looked absolutely delicious. My mouth watered up. Like, y'all don't understand. I was salivating. That cheese. Stop playing with me. Okay, I love cheese. So I was like, this is food porn. I mean, when she scooped the cheese out onto the bread, I said, I have died and gone to heaven, okay? And then they had lamb chops and lobster tail and shrimp. I was like, okay, like, somebody make me a plate right now. But that cheese looked absolutely divine. Oh my gosh. Does anybody love cheese the way I love cheese? Because I can sit there and eat some cheese, okay? Thank God I am not lactose intolerant. God is good. Whitney wants them all to do a shot from her shot ski. Now, you guys know on Watch What Happens Live, Andy always makes him do a shot off of it on Wednesdays. So she brought it, and then I think it's her, Heather, and Meredith all take a shot off the shot ski, and Mary's just sitting there being annoyed. She's like, Whitney is just so annoying. Like, who does that? Who acts like this at our age? And then she's like, who acts like that even at Whitney's age? I'm like, Mary, all they're doing is taking a shot. Why is that something so terrible? If you don't want to take a shot, then that's fine. But you don't have to down everybody else. Like, again, Mary is just a miserable person. She seems to find fault with everything. Like, that is no way to live. So they finish eating their dinner, and then they go outside to have some dessert, and their dessert is s'mores. So they're eating their s'mores. Meredith is showing them this really cool way of how she makes her s'mores. I was like, girl, you're doing too much. Give me some graham cracker, a piece of chocolate, and some marshmallows, and let's call it a day. Like, she was breaking it up into these tiny bite sizes. I said, girl, nobody got time for that. Give me a big old piece. So while they're making s'mores, Mary says that she wants to leave. So they're like, Mary, like, just stay with us and have fun. Mary turns to Heather and says, Heather, make sure you don't end up in my bed. So they're like, Mary, why would Heather end up in your bed? And she's like, well, because y'all know how you guys like to drink and stuff, so she might get drunk and think that she's in her room when she's actually in my room. So Heather says, girl, if I wake up in Mary's bed, please send me to outer darkness. And in the Mormon religion, outer darkness is the equivalent to hell. The way I could not stop laughing when Heather said that. So Whitney decides that this is the perfect time to confront Mary about their issues, and she brings up the tiff they had at Mary's Italian cooking class. So Whitney says, Mary, do you know how you hurt me? Mary is resting her head on Meredith's shoulder, and she's closing her eyes. So Whitney's like, Mary, are you listening to me? Mary says, girl, I hear you. I'm just, I had nothing to say. So Mary says, Whitney, you hurt me by not picking up the phone when I called you. So Whitney says, Mary, when you say things like, I don't listen to you, what do you mean by that? That's really hurtful because I'm not your child. So Mary says, thank God you're not my child. And then Mary says, you know what? I'm not doing this. So she gets up and leaves. Meredith runs after Mary and she's like, Mary, don't leave. I think that Whitney just wants to hear that you love her and that you want to be her friend. Like, that's it. Mary says, another time, just not tonight. I'm over it. I'm going to bed. So Mary's off in her room, and now it's just the rest of them on the balcony eating s'mores. So Whitney says, this just really hurts because I've protected her. Every time people say things about Mary, I'm always protecting her and standing up for her. Lisa is confused, and she says to Whitney, what do you mean protect her? Whitney says, well, there's a lot out there about her, like the fact that her church worships her like she's God. Then Whitney brings up how Cameron told Meredith that she was warned. So Lisa interjects and says, no, that's not what he told Meredith. He told Meredith to be careful. So then Lisa says, look, if you want to know about what Cameron said, then you need to ask him some questions. Then Jenny says in her confessional, now I see why Heather and Whitney get frustrated with Lisa, because Lisa does like to withhold information that she knows. Like, just spill it already. I said, and that's how people want to secure their spot for the next season. I won't be surprised if Lisa and Jenny fall out this season, because for Jenny to say that she understands where Heather and Whitney are coming from about her good friend, if you've been friends with somebody for a decade, then you know their quirks, you know their flaws, like, you know what I'm saying? You know how they act about things. So for Jenny to act like this is her first time seeing Lisa in a new light, I'm like, girl, are you just saying this because you now want to align yourself with Heather and Whitney to stay on this show? Like I keep saying, y'all, people will do anything to secure the Real Housewives bag. If that means turning on a friend that they've known for years, they will do that. Because this fame and this money gets very addicting to a lot of these ladies. Now Meredith interjects and she says, look, I had a direct conversation with Mary today about all these rumors circulating about her. And she said to me, what church or religion doesn't have some sort of rumors or bad stuff said about them? So she says, that's a fair point. Now Lisa jumps in and says, well, all I'm going to say is that Cameron told me that he has a lot of religious trauma from Mary. So Meredith is getting irritated and she says, look, religious trauma is the most abstract thing I have ever heard. I have been Mary's friend for a long time now. I've stuck by her for a very long time, and I cannot talk in circles anymore. I need you to give me a concrete answer or honestly just shut up about this. So Lisa says, look, Cameron told me that he mortgaged his house and gave Mary $300,000. And that's where the episode ends. I said, child. I said $300,000, excuse me? To Mary? Absolutely not. Y'all, I don't know what to believe. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the truth, because a lot of people have said that those folks in her church really do worship the ground that she walks on. So, I mean, people are in cults all the time. We hear a lot of stories of how people drained out their bank accounts to give to religious leaders. So it is not out of the realm of possibility. The fact that Cameron passed away last summer, so he's no longer here to tell his side of things and to confirm or deny if this is true about him giving Mary $300,000 and mortgaging his home. Just a mess all around. I definitely understood where Meredith was coming from. Like, look, if you're going to talk in circles, then let's stop bringing this up. Lisa, my dear, you are definitely the villain for this season, and you are not a good villain or a smart villain at all. You're trying to play both sides. You're trying to act like you're keeping Cameron's secrets while revealing them at the same time. It's like just a mess. But y'all, This was another fantastic episode. I enjoyed myself from beginning to end. I'm looking forward to see how this whole Mary saga plays out now. I'm liking how SLC has really turned up the heat in the second half of the season because we are getting some quality entertainment. Like, they are really making up for the fact that the first 8 episodes were slow as hell. And I also wanted to say, I hope you all had a beautiful and lovely Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoyed your time with your family and friends and ate as much as you could. But y'all, thank you again for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.